Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news coming late Saturday night for Kalen Deboer and the Alabama fans as four-star defensive lineman Antonio Coleman flips back his commitment to Alabama. And not only are you getting, in my mind, one of my favorite defensive linemen in this 2025 class, a guy that really reminds me of Peter Woods on the film. This is more for me showing that Kalen Deboer can get it done on the recruiting trail in the SEC. When Kalen Deboer takes this job in Tuscaloosa, the real questions that we had was not Kalen Deboer as a football coach. And if you're questioning Kalen Deboer as a football coach, you got to reevaluate Kalen Deboer, right? You look at Kalen Deboer, what he's done. He's won every single place that he's been at the college level. This is a guy that's one of the best offensive minds that you see in the country. I think the one question you had about Kalen Deboer taking this job at Alabama was, can he get it done on the recruiting trail? For guys like this, guys on the trenches in the defensive line against teams like Kirby Smart, Hugh Freeze, I think this is not only, again, a really good defensive lineman Alabama gets, I think this is more of a signal that Kalen Deboer can get it done on the recruiting trail in the SEC. Want to get into Antonio Coleman, take a look at the film, talk a little bit about what he brings to this Alabama defense. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. And many of you guys know this is one of my favorite aspects of college football, evaluating this high school talent, covering the recruiting trail. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys continue to show to the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Antonio Coleman. I said right off the jump, Antonio Coleman, when you turn on the film, you get a lot of Peter Woods vibes in terms of maybe not the biggest stature defensive lineman in this 2025 class, but a guy that can win with the two things that you want to see defensive linemen win with, right? Has phenomenal power in his hands, and because he's only 6'2", you see him play with phenomenal leverage, gets under offensive linemen, just really drives them right back into the quarterback. What I think really sets Antonio Coleman apart and makes me one of his biggest fans in this 2025 class is how he can win with his quickness and twitch off the line of scrimmage as well. And when you start coupling the power to go right through offensive linemen, but also challenge them with your twitch and athleticism and your get off the line of scrimmage, that's how you look at a really elite caliber defensive lineman. And I think Antonio Coleman kind of checks all those boxes. And you take a look at the production as a junior. This is a guy that had over 70 tackles as a junior on the inside of that defensive line, 30 of which are coming for tackles for loss. This is a guy that kind of wins consistently, is a game record, kind of lives in opponent backfields, and you see him win with a variety of different moves in different ways. And I think that's kind of what excites me the most. Now, you get into the film a little bit, you're going to see right off the bat just the power that you're talking about, right? 6'2", 285, phenomenal get off the line of scrimmage. He stays low, gets right underneath the offensive lineman, and really just drags this center right back into the quarterback, right? This is extremely impressive hands. And then when it's time to bend around and make plays in the backfield, he certainly can do that too. Plays with a little nasty. Now, this is kind of what makes him special, right? You just saw him win with exceptional speed to power, right? Just getting right inside of that center, putting him right into the lap of the quarterback. This next rep, you see his ability to win with his speed, right? Really good to get off. Nice little swim move, bends around, goes out, makes a play from that inside. You're talking about just a premier game record at the high school level, and a guy that I think is still around his friend. You're talking about someone who's only going into his senior year of high school, right? He's still a junior in high school as we're talking right now, but looks really, really developed with a lot of potential to continue to put on that weight, get up to around 300 pounds, maintain that athleticism. That's what excites you the most, is what Antonio Coleman can be at the next level. Again, game record, working through multiple blocks. You see that lateral quickness too, which is another thing that in my mind separates just quality defensive linemen to kind of elite guys that can be game records, that ability to go lateral, side to side, have that athleticism. Antonio Coleman carries 285 exceptionally well, and a lot of the same stuff you saw from Peter Woods in terms of maybe a little undersized on that inside, but a phenomenal athlete with a lot of power in his hands. Again, working through blocks. At least see the closing speed here, right? 285 pounds. We're going to go track down the quarterback in space, go make a play. You're talking about a truly premier athlete on the inside of that defensive line. Again, getting into the backfield, his get off the line of scrimmage, extremely impressive. I think that's what kind of stands out to you the most, continuing to work right now. A relentless motor as well. I mean, working off blocks, how he gets off blocks is also extremely well. We talk about how Michigan in their interior defensive line did a phenomenal job shedding blocks, creating space for themselves. You see Antonio Coleman do a lot of that too. And a lot of this production is coming from that true nose tackle position where it's hard to find that production. Antonio Coleman, 30 tackles for a loss from that zero tech, extremely impressive. And again, you just see him continue to work, continue to get in the backfield. Really, really impressive film from Antonio Coleman as a junior. And again, going back to the conversation I wanted to have in the first place, not only am I a massive fan of Antonio Coleman and what he brings to the table, I'm a bigger fan of what Kalen Deboer just showed that he can do. This was one of the more coveted defensive linemen for a lot of SEC schools. Was committed to Auburn after being previously committed to Alabama with Nick Saban. This shows you that I don't think we have many questions about what Kalen Deboer can do in terms of recruiting quarterbacks and recruiting wide receivers. You go back to his time at Washington, developing guys like Michael Penix, Roma Duzne, Jalen Pope, Jalen McMillan. He shows that if you are an elite quarterback, an elite wide receiver, you want to go play for Kalen Deboer. I think the question was, all right, can we win the trenches? That is the most important aspect. How did Nick Saban have so much success for such a long time at Alabama? He controlled the line of scrimmage. Can Kalen Deboer recruit these big bodies to continue to win the line of scrimmage at Alabama? Bringing in Antonio Coleman is certainly a massive help in terms of doing that. And I think it shows that guys like Freddie Roach and Kalen Deboer's staff can get it done. Massive commitment for Alabama. And again, sends a message that Kalen Deboer can get it done on the recruiting trail. We'll leave it at that. Appreciate you guys, as always, for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.